Well, hey, this is Andrew with SpackleBucket Moto, back in the garage again, and again sitting in front of the 2019 KTM 350EXC, and I wanted to explain a bit of why I ended up with this specific bike. Back in 2014, I bought a leftover 2013 KTM 350 and proceeded to use that for the next several years, racing, dual sporting, commuting, you name it, I was doing it on it. I put 6,000 or so miles on it, and then got the silly thought in my head that despite how fantastic the bike had been for me, how many races I'd won with it, how many rides were just fantastic, I decided I'm gonna go with the two-stroke. So sold the 350. Much to the opposition of my wife. She suggested that I stick with the 350. Smart woman. If your wife says to stick with the 350, listen to her. So I sold it and found myself in the position of looking for a two-stroke. Initially I was looking at used KTMs or 300s, 250s, stuff like that. And ended up taking a gamble on, well, let's just say I went to China Panda and opted to try out a GPX TSE 250R. So which that bike was basically a 2017 Husky chassis knockoff with a Yamaha DT 230 engine. If you want to look stuff up on that, there's a whole bunch of information on YouTube, plenty of videos, pictures, information. But long story short, after spending about a year and a half on that, I realized that there were a few things with that didn't jive for me, and then really realized that two-stroke wasn't really for me. So I went back down the rabbit hole of looking at other options. I weighed, the Honda CRF 450L against this. I looked at the KTM 350EXC. And if you're wondering why I was looking at EXCs or the 450L bikes like that, was basically I live in a state that's difficult to plate things. And so I want to have a legit plated bike in my state. Unfortunately, we're not like, Colorado or Washington, states like that, where you can convert an off-road bike to be street legal. So you have the options of buying a, a WR 450F or, even a YZ 250FX, something like that. You've got a lot more options when you can do that sort of thing. Where I'm at, that's not really an option. And I really wanted to be able to have just a legit bike that I'm not going to commute on it regularly. I've got, my BMW 650 over here for that. But I always like having that option. There's something about hopping on a dirt bike on the street where you feel like you're getting away with something you shouldn't be allowed to. So they're just a big reason for going with the EXC there. But I really went back with this because the bike just worked perfect for me. I felt I could kind of do no wrong, which I've got some clips from in the past where I found that I could do some wrong and found myself propelling in some single track into some trees in about third gear, which was not a pretty situation. But the bike overall just allowed me to do all the things I wanted to do. And so I kind of took a gamble by not even bother test riding any other bikes. Because I knew of the time I spent on my prior 350. And there's a whole bunch of different upgrades too that they did with this that really pulled me into it. And you can look on this side here. They went through, they pulled the Kickstarter, which made it lighter. I really never even used that. I tried using it on some dead engine starts with some hair scrambles and found that basically leaving it in neutral, clutch in, hit the starter, and quick click up in the second gear and just blast off was the best option for that. So I tried a few times using the Kickstarter with the electric starter. Didn't really work for me. It just put me off balance. And so I just relied heavily on the starter. And the other thing with these is they opted to put in a lithium battery with them stock. So again, you lose some weight there. You know, these ones, since it's a street legal bike, the exhausts have a spark arrestor in them stock. That's one of the deals with, you know, stock street legal motorcycles are technically spark arrestor approved. I mean, you can double check the legalities on that, but it lists as spark arrestor, you know, forestry approved, which I do a lot of riding in, you know, the UP, Wisconsin, all areas where they require spark arrestors. And it's kind of a shame on companies that kind of fudge that stuff. So I'm really glad that this has that, where I'm not having to buy an extra part there. The other thing is, my 13 did not come with a fan, which was an annoyance for any person that rides any slower terrain, you know, some gnarly stuff. The 4-strokes, a lot of guys claim they boil over a lot more. And so this one comes stock with the fan. So you're not having to spend, again, another $150 doing add-ons for things. One of the other things they did with these is they put lock-on grips, and they included 2 different cams at the throttle. So the stock one, it's a bit slower. I want to say it was like a 3/4 turn to get full throttle, whereas I swapped in the black one that was included with it. So it's a straight up 1/4 turn throttle, really quick response, just a great setup there. You know, the hydraulic clutch and brakes on these are just renowned for being kind of the best in the business. They did update a few things with how the turn signals are mounted. I'd want to remove them for racing if I was only racing, but since I am also riding around, you know, on the streets and stuff like that, yes, you can use your arm for signaling. I still like having that extra thing. For me, it's a personal safety measure. Some states require it. That's kind of up to you, but it's one of those things where they did update that on the front where they're tied into the headlight mask. Makes it a little easier. They also updated the forks on these, and this might have happened sooner. I want to say maybe 2017. These are the Explorer forks, and I'm lazy when it comes to suspension. I kind of set it, forget it like a Showtime rotisserie, and just kind of go, hey, I got to deal with the suspension. I know a lot of guys like to fiddle with this stuff, and one of the things I realize is I tend to not mess with them because I had to go to the bottom and deal with getting mud out of the clicker. They've set it up so compression damping is on your left, rebound dampening is on your right. It's all very convenient. You can be sitting on the seat and go, hey, I don't think this feels right, and just click on the top. You're not having to make sure both legs are synced. You can just update from the top up there. It's just very easy. They still have the kind of crappy, floppy rear fender setup. There's a handful of aftermarket options. I'd replaced my 2013, but this go around I'm going to kind of go with the method of don't mess with it till I break it, which if I keep the plate on there, stock light, it'll probably break sooner than later, but whatever. You know, it's one of those things where you deal with it as it comes. So then the other thing they did here, which is important to note, is to help meet sound emission requirements. They opted to put TKC 80s on here. My 2013 had like Metzlers, way knobbier of a tire that, you know, I literally took the bike off the showroom floor and was racing it with those. They were great. These, as I get into more off-road stuff, I'm going to have to likely change them. However, I'm going to do a test in the next coming weeks here on taking the bike as is, as you see here, to an indoor motocross track, just because, well, why not? One of the other things here that they did, which made, again, the buy-in with this even cheaper, was they put a 52-tooth sprocket on the rear. The prior gen 350 had a 45-tooth sprocket to get the RPMs lower at cruising speed. So then when you wanted to put that 52-tooth sprocket on the rear for off-road use, you're having to buy the new sprocket, a new chain, and just, you know, that all of a sudden adds up to, again, another $100 here or there. Moving on over, they also went in, there's some updates with the tank. They slimmed it up. They also went in, widened up the foot pegs. So when you're sitting on the bike, your legs are further in, so you get a good grip on it. But at the same time, they went ahead and the foot pegs, even if it's only a 1/4 inch, I'm not exactly sure what the width difference is, but you feel it. Your feet just feel way more planted. And I've got size 13 shoes and boots. And so having whatever extra platform I can for my foot pegs is just well appreciated. So then going around to the side, I think they updated this mid 2015 or so, but on the tank, they used a 90-degree adapter for where the fuel pump connects to the tank, leading to the fuel injector. My 2013, that one there had a vertical spigot coming out, and then the hose kind of bent onto that. It was kind of one of those risk areas where a lot of anti-fuel injection folk go, oh, that's an area for things to break. Again, I literally dropped mine off of some cliffs at 5 miles of hell in Moab. Nothing broke. So it's kind of one of those things where it was a potential problem, and they've really gone and updated it with the flat 90-degree adapter that they have on there. And that's, I mean, for the most part, the styling on it, it's kind of love it or hate it sort of thing. I just like the way all new dirt bikes look, whether it is a Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki's, Kawasaki's. I think they all have their own little, quirks here and there, but on the whole, I mean, they're just all cool bikes. But yeah, that's a few of the things that kind of swayed me towards going towards this. I'll be taking some time the next few months here, really doing my best to beat the snot out of this thing. I thought that I beat up my old one with the racing and all the stuff that I did on it. But as I found out with inspecting everything, it was, even at 200 hours, the stock engine on mine was still, everything was in spec. Cylinder, piston, rings, all of it in spec. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how much abuse I can put on this. So we'll be having some videos from, like I said, the indoor motocross track, a bunch of roosting up in the UP, some trails out here in Wisconsin, some down in Illinois. And hopefully I'll push myself to get some racing back in, but I think I might be pulling out the rowing machine before I get that happening. So until next time, Andrew from SpackleBucket Moto.